Hey everybody, what's up? It's LA. I'm so excited. It's Friday. I am hanging out in the house today. It's a little too hot. Yesterday, I ran some errands and me and my daughter went out to what did we do? We just ran a few errands. And when I got back home, pulled in the garage, my car, I felt so bad. Like I had really put her through the ringer and my car sounds horrible. Like, ooh, she sounds like an animal that had been taken outside in the heat, exercised, walked, ran, and did not have any time to breathe properly, rest, get water. My car sounded so bad. And it really made me feel so bad. You know what I need to do? I need to share the live. Let me quickly share the live into Facebook. And I hope you all can hear me well. Let me see. While I do this, let's go ahead and run the intro and then I will be right back. Yeah, Drake was patting you on the back. All the rappers. Hey, what's up? Back again. Hey, what's up? It's up to you to do the research. It's up to you. Hey, I'm still here. I am back. But I'm moving slow. So bear with me. No one's here yet. Let's just try to put this in Facebook super quick. And then we'll be good to go. Don't make me do all this, please. It should be fairly quickly. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It is Friday afternoon. I hope you had a great week. I am so excited to be here with you all this evening. I want to talk about what the Disney fairy tale did to women. And we're going to see. It's me. I just want to quickly share the video to Facebook. Be sure to like the video as you come in the room. I didn't forget my password though. So I think it's going to check over on my phone. So 1 second. Okay. So it's going to come over to my phone. Actually, I might just share it from my phone because using my iPad is a pain. But I'm very excited. Oh, that looks good. Let me save that to watch later. It's such a pain to have to do this. Be sure to hit the like button as you wait on me to get started, please. I'm going to share it to Facebook. Okay. I am so excited about today's conversation because we need to talk about the Disney fairy tale disservice and what it did to women now that we're seeing so much of a generation of women who are like, yeah, no. And women from the older generations saying, yeah. No, it's so funny because I feel like men have had a good run. Men have had a good run, and women are en masse saying, we don't want to do this anymore. And men are still stuck in their run of, I want what my grandparents had. And women are saying, but yeah, our grandmothers pulled us aside and told us to never do that ever. Because she was overworked, underappreciated, not valued, unpaid, of course. She wasn't able to develop her skills, build out on her own life, build up her dreams. And it was all about family, family, family. And so we're seeing a lot of women that are saying, absolutely not. The jig is up. The jig is up because nobody wants to be just a subservient. I watched a video, a subservient person, right? And for me, when I was first married, I never thought that would be my life. I never thought that would be my life. But now I'm starting to watch videos and they relate to me a lot more than they did previously, because previously I was like, no, this would never happen to me. I would never be with a man that doesn't see a woman as his equal. Of course not. That's impossible. I'm smart enough that that would never happen. And once you get deep and involved in the marriage, you start to see that no, this is probably the majority. Of course, I'm not saying all 100% of men, absolutely not. I want to make sure that you understand I'm also speaking mostly about the Black community, whether that be Jamaican, Nigerian, West African, East African, South African, Black American, Black Canadians, whatever. I'm talking about the Black community because I believe initially we thought that maybe this is a run that Black men in America, Black American men are going through. And then we also attributed it to, a lifestyle. People did really enjoy our community, perpetuated the lifestyle of um, hip hop communities, right? And the men were top dogs and they had a plethora of gorgeous women. Nobody settled down. So we started to see that really emerge, and that really transformed what used to be what we thought was normal American life or the American dream that Black people had, which was a mother and father. They were married. They lived in the same home. The dad went to work. The mom made sure meals were done. Those were our grandparents and their mothers, right? And then we thought the emergence of hip hop was really reflected in relationships because they started to kind of bend. And we saw more and more men not being married from the Black community. And we said, okay, fine. The problem was, I think there was a disconnect in that men were getting a message of unwavering desirability for whatever reason. You didn't even need a reason. Women were always going to be available to you. And that may still be true. But women were still being fed, and maybe even more so. If you think about the emergence and surge of hip hop, and you think about the emergence and surge of Disney princesses, these timelines really align. So boys who were not immersed in Disney movies, immersed in this fairy tale of Snow White and Cinderella and Jasmine and Tiana, these are the Little Mermaid. All of these women were the stars of the show. The Disney empire did not have male characters that were pining for women. It just didn't happen. Think about the story of the Little Mermaid. She literally sold her voice and wanted legs to meet Eric. Right? Think about Snow White. The objective was the kiss of her lover or her soulmate. The objective is always in Disney films and that entire run of types of movies. The objective was always a man's love. That was the end game. But for little boys, they didn't have a theme that ran the same course. For little boys, they were heroes. They were the hero. It was Eric from Little Mermaid. He was the attractive man that she needed to have. And if you think about other movies that boys had, they were saving the world. Boys were saving the world. and women were pining for love. Wow. Yeah. And if you think about in the hip hop community, I think the messaging is very similar. The boys are lifted up, the men are lifted up, and these superheroes, super unattainable men that are out of your reach if you're a regular woman. So you need to then work harder. If you're regular or you don't look like a video vixen, what they put in our faces on music video, if you don't look like these type of women, work harder. But if you correlate that with the theme that Disney has, Ariel wasn't the right type of woman. She needed to work harder and sacrifice herself. Ariel had to sacrifice her body for a man. In hip hop, you need to work harder. Be as beautiful as you can for access to men. That's it. No matter how treacherous, no matter how in the streets, no matter the type of activity or lifestyle they led, no matter if you were, it did not matter. The focus and the point was to be loved, right? That's so interesting because I never even thought about it that way. The focus and the interest for the woman is always to be loved. But you have to get that love by doing as much as you can, no matter how gorgeous, no matter your singing voice, no matter if your Snow White was, exceptionally beautiful in the movies. No matter your attributes as a woman, work harder. And the only thing that you would get in return was your value was determined by who loved you back. That is so crazy to me. So now we're seeing a wake up amongst young women, and they are saying, absolutely not. I've checked completely out of that. I want absolutely nothing to do with that because what we've seen our mothers and grandmothers gain from this has been, I'm sorry if I'm getting a glare on my glasses when I look up. What we've seen our mothers and grandmothers and their mothers and grandmothers get from this exchange is so minimal, if not detrimental. If we're keeping it 100% real, most of the exchanges have been detrimental to the women that we've seen growing up. I will tell you this, I know a lot of women. I've had a lot of friends. I was very intelligent and kind of ahead of my time throughout middle school and high school. I've seen so many families, especially living in a suburban, predominantly Black area and going to school for 7, 8 years in a suburban, primarily Black neighborhood where people were expected, they were homeowners, which made a difference back then. That said something back when I was growing up. Somebody was a homeowner. That means they were fairly successful and disciplined with money and earned enough in the home to be able to buy a house in this neighborhood. That meant something. So they were homeowners. And so I would be over my friends' houses and I would see the women really taking charge. If the friend had company, the woman would be at the sink, making food, bringing snacks, checking on the kids, making sure the kids that visited got home. The husband was completely checked out. I noticed this from the early years at middle school. So you're talking about I had to be 12, 13. The women were always at the events. If we would have a graduation, we would have a homecoming. And this is in areas where there were mothers and fathers in the home. There would still be a lack of male presence. So that's why that also makes me want to bring up when I hear these people that give relationship advice and consider themselves to be experts, it's very interesting because they consider themselves to be experts. They always talk about two parent households. I grew up in Black two-parent neighborhoods, and the men were still checked out. So having two parents in the home, I don't know if that means a lot. If the mother is being victimized in some way, if the mother is being neglected and emotionally unwell or mentally unwell because of the neglect and the lack of support and the lack of love, lack of fidelity. Because if you're tormenting the mother, can you call yourself a good father? And I don't know how many times I've spent the night in high school and middle school at people's houses, and you could hear these fights between the parents go on while their child has company, visitors overnight. They can't even get through one night without fighting with other people's kids in the home. So I'm very leery in just saying, I'm very leery when people say two parent, two parent, two parent, because to me, I've seen it growing up. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't automatically bring anything. There needs to be other language and other dialogue added to that. I understand the importance, of course, but that message is not being conveyed. So if you get people on here that are saying, oh, you needed to be in a two-parent household, it's like you need to say a little bit more so people understand, especially people that look up to you. These are a lot of young men, a lot of young brothers are looking up to these podcast people, and they're thinking, oh, I just need to have anybody in the home. And I don't have any responsibility past that. Like, I just need to make sure there is a woman in the home, and I have zero responsibility past that. Because if all you say is two parent, then yeah, I can have a kid with my baby mama and I'll be there. I'll be around. Nobody is saying how you'll have you'll have sleepless nights. Sir, you'll be in disagreement with your wife. You'll need to understand parenting styles before you even talk about having a child together. There are so many things that people are missing. And so that's why people are getting surprised by this so-called gender war that's happening online and in real life. I don't know. I posted something on my channel today, and it was I posted it across my social media platforms, in which I said, air quotes or in quotes, you look happier now. And it's just a video of me hanging out. And then I said, yes, I stopped dating men. And on TikTok, it did so well. I posted it on my burner TikTok account. It did so well. There are so many women in the comments saying, yes, it's so good over here. Yes, I'm so much happier. Yes, it's so peaceful. Yes, it's no stress. Yes, I'm not worried. And men are like, no, we want our grandmothers. And women like, we don't want anything to do with it at all. Women are so checked out. Of course, you have the women who still want the fairy tale. And that's what we're here to talk about today. The women who want the fairy tale. Disney has given them hope of this Prince Charming that even me, somebody that's 40 plus years old, I'm someone that still expects certain things. And I have a hard time, even at this age, deciphering, are you trying to pick up perfection in a person? Or are you going to be realistic about what a person can deliver to you as a man, as a human? You know what I mean? So I think I want to find a partner, and I'm piecing people from my past together. Like, oh, this one was 100% provider. I didn't have to do anything, and he said yes to everything. And this one always liked to go out to the nicest of restaurants, and I need to have a little bit of him and a little bit of him and a little bit of this one and a little bit of that one. So I don't think I'm even absolved from what Disney has done to the brains of women who are in search of, because it did a disservice to men too, because men grew up thinking, I'm good enough without having to do anything else but exist. And that was it. Because I like to reference The Little Mermaid because I can see it visually in my head. It's only recently that we've had stories from Disney that are really about friendship. If you think about that, excuse me, let me take a sip of water. Ooh. If you think about that, it's only recently that we've had stories from Disney about friendship, like the Lilo and Stitch, like Moana, like the Emotions movie. What was that called? Um, I can't think of the name of the Disney movie that was about emotions. Inside Out. And then there was Monsters Inc. There has only recently been movies that are exclusive. Inside Out. Thank you, Clever Girl Reading. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. Yes, Inside Out. There's only recently been movies that aren't just overtly wrapped in love and romance and finding a man. And I don't think those movies were intentionally geared towards much younger children. I think the age range would be about the same. If you think about in the 90s or whenever The Little Mermaid came out, there were elements of friendship, but the overarching theme was love. In Tiana's movie, The Princess and the Frog, there were elements of friendship, but overarching was love. Even with Jasmine and Aladdin, there was the rug and Babu and the tiger that Jasmine had. So there were elements of friendship, but overarching, it was love. It's only recently that Disney is like, okay, we may need to understand a little bit more about leading our girls blindly into relationships that just don't benefit them. We're leading our girls blindly into relationships that just do not benefit them. I don't know if that was a conscious decision or do you okay, for the people in the chat and Clever Girl Reading, do you think Disney made a conscious decision to change the theme and tone of the movies from love? Because Frozen and Frozen 2 aren't that old. They're in the 2000s. So these movies aren't that old, but do you think it was like a financial decision or do you think it was a conscious decision? A lot of people say these corporations don't have a conscious, but it's very, wow. It's very, very interesting because hip hop still floods our community and our boys with a selfishness that supersedes everything. And they're not taught about relationships. They're not taught how to nurture relationships, how to process their emotions. And if you think about the other end, women aren't taught how to lead with logic. We're taught to emotionally evaluate everything. Emotionally evaluate everything. And wow, boys are not taught how to be human. Oh, okay. No problem. Thank you for turning me on. Thank you for turning me on. Yeah, so I think that boys are just not taught how to be partners. Boys are taught to exist, not to show up, not to be partners. And so for some of that, I blame society. Because even as a great parent, your children's environment are going to be a greater influence on them than even your parenting. A lot of people may not understand that or may not know that or realize that or accept it. What happens at school, what happens on the school bus, what happens in those phones, in those group chats they have with friends, are more influential than your parenting at a certain age. At a certain age, everything they experience in the world will be a bigger influence than you have been over 24 years or 22 years when they graduate college. That is scary. So I think our major focus needs to be for our girls and the girls that come up behind us that we see. We need to make sure that they are able to navigate this world without looking for love. And even in other communities, they are sent out and sent to school, which is only a recent revelation for me. Maybe in the early part of the 2010s did I realize that this wasn't a joke, that white children, white women are sent to schools to find the successful engineers, the doctors, the developers, the software developers that are going to be up and coming and great in their industry. They're sent to schools to find husbands. I thought that was a joke. And number one, I think it's very scary because I've said before that I've seen so many women. When I was divorced, I joined the group chats in Reddit and Facebook groups to figure out how to find a lawyer, how to evaluate a lawyer, how do you split the house, how do you get alimony, what does that look like? Is it worth fighting for if I'm paying my lawyer hundreds of dollars an hour and I'm only going to get 2 years of alimony at whatever he can afford based on calculations, and we're only going to split a house that maybe has 10,000 in equity since we just bought it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we splitting? What are we doing? Does it make sense for me to drag this out if it's minimal to my benefit? That was my question. And I saw that, number one, there were more divorcing white women in the groups than there were divorcing sisters in the group. And that made me realize that they're not having a better experience. It's probably a little bit quieter, kept under the rug. There's also an interesting video that I saw when all this ballerina farms drama was going on. Some women had started sharing their divorce stories. White women started sharing their divorce stories on TikTok, and they all had these unreal support systems that they thought were support systems that ended up being their worst nightmare. Even their parents, their mothers, work it out. Even after being physically assaulted, parents are saying work it out. Friends are saying work it out. Friends that don't say work it out are siding with the husband or out with the husband for drinks. They're not having a better deal. That's why I don't like. Sorry, I lost my connection. I don't like when people compare white men to Black men, because white women aren't having a better experience than Black women in relationships. The entire patriarchy is absurd to the point that all women need to do better. But my focus on my channel is for the betterment of Black women, because I think we have a few more hurdles to overcome. But the Disney fairy tale allows these adult women to raise up these little girls. I'm still talking about white women saying on TikTok that they are actually sent out to colleges to meet husbands, not to become doctors, financiers, engineers. No. They're sent to meet partners. And so when I thought of the Disney fairy tale, it's like even these women overseeing their daughters are still saying, go meet a man. That is your role. That is your purpose. That is the plan. It's your future. Your future is to go meet a man. And that resonates to me now because in those divorce groups, on those Reddit threads, there were so many women who didn't know what company their car insurance was with, how to reach their mortgage company, where the money was, where his retirement benefits were sent to, whether that was a Wells Fargo or a Fidelity or JP Morgan. They had no idea where the money was. They had no ability to get an apartment, to get a lawyer. I was so independent in my marriage, and like I said in an earlier video, I was dating a man who, at the time, it took me a few years to wake up. I'm new to this. So at the time, I'm like, oh, this is a provider. I've married a provider. This is great. This is great. But if you look back and you think about it, he's paying his bills. He's not doing, over and beyond for me. I mean, we would go to dinner. We went on vacation once or twice. I can't remember. He upgraded the ring, da 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 da. There were things like that, but he wasn't doing so much that we need to just ascend this man on a pedestal because he was paying his bills. We consider these people to be exceptional people when they are really performing very average shit, if we're being honest, because we're calling my husband, who paid his bills, a provider, when really, don't we all just got to move around paying our bills at some point? It's not like you're doing exceptional things. So I got what I think any woman would deserve, but it wasn't exceptional. And that relates to the video I did earlier this week. And I talked about the best men, the men we call exceptional, are really average women. They don't cheat, they don't smoke, they drink socially, they're not violent, they pay their bills, they go to work, or they have a career that's gainful. They have a bit of culture, they like to travel, they're kind. Every woman I know is that way. Literally every woman I know is that way. So again, this fairy tale idea that we have about men, it puts them on this pedestal when they don't deserve it. They're the exceptional men, what we've raised them to be, these heights, are really, truly average. Think about this now. In 1990s, we thought Ariel was doing the right thing. She found the love of her life. Of course, she should disfigure her body and sell her talent to be with her soulmate, because the idea was that this man is going to provide for you and care for you and protect you, and this is your destiny. That man is your soulmate. In 2025, but we just had Halle Bailey do a remake. But in 2025, if you really break down the core of what is The Little Mermaid, it's disfiguring your body, selling your talent, making a deal with the devil to meet a man. To meet a man. And now saying it out loud, it's even scarier when you hear it out loud, because in 2025, you still see women doing it. And I'm not ragging on women that get surgery. That's not what this is about. This is about what we've done to our girls, what that generation looks like when you look back at it and when you live it today. Because me, I was 35 when I got married. No, that was 4 years ago. So I was about 36. I was 36 when I got married. And now I'm 40, I'm just over 40, and I'm having these realizations that I wish were there 5 years ago. just 5 years ago, I wish I had the intelligence, the TikToks, the community. TikTok build a community that can really shape a different future for our women and our girls coming up. I think that's so relevant and so important that we're dismantling what we all thought. And I think innocently enough, I'm not saying that anybody was wrong in sending their children to the wolves, because we all thought that that was the role that men would assume. But once you get into these relationships, you realize that they really, and again, not all, they don't have the capacity to be the partners that we expected and want them to be. And so that makes me wonder, are enough women being loud enough about it? There's a new trend on TikTok. Let's see if I can pull it up really quick. I want to pull this trend up on TikTok. It's called Man of the Year. It's hard to watch. I'm gonna have to mute it, but a lot of them are just videos or text messages that um, show that it is really scary what you find inside of the community of women that are very opposed to what we've been seeing. So we'll watch a few of these Men of the Year trends, and I hope I explained it correctly. Men of the Year is just um, women who thought they were dating somebody else. Let's say it like that. These are women that thought they were dating men who were not who they expected them to be, for lack of a better word. So I will share this now. Actually, let me go out. I'm going to share it without sound because it uses a popular song. So I want to share it without sound. And we'll look at a few of these together. And I'll read what it says on screen so we can hear what the girls are saying. And I hope it's not triggering. So this anybody that comes on in the replay, be sure to comment replay and like the video. And this is a trigger warning for DV and assault. Okay, this is very, very, she says she won the trend. And what I'm telling you, you're seeing is this woman is arguing with her live-in partner because he urinated in the corner of their bedroom and refuses to clean it up. Let's She says she won. They get pretty bad though. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. Perfect way to end the man of the year trend. I needed a trigger warning for myself. I'm so sorry if that really shook anybody. So sorry. Um, yeah. So man of the year is just another community of women that are able to really finally, it looks like a lot of them are saying, I never would do this. I've never told anybody this, and are sharing their stories of like that total man of the year is what the trend is like. I'm acting like someone else all the time, but behind closed doors, I'm doing the most horrendous things to the woman who loves me. So that's the trend. Anyway, yeah. So I really wanted to come on here and just think about, or at least provoke more conversation around Disney's fairy tales and what they did to a generation of women who are finally able to say, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that. I don't want that anymore. And a generation of men who are complaining about women who really don't want to live the life that their grandmothers lived. Yeah, because their grandmothers absolutely 100% warned them that they didn't get a fair shake. They didn't get a fair shake. And I also am, you know, I also know that there are women who have been so hurt, so beat down by life and their partners, not physically, but just beat down, tore down by life and their partners, that they don't know anything else. And I saw a post recently that said, if you have older women in your family and they always are doing something, always moving, always washing a dish, sweeping a floor, tinkering with something, always at a Walmart, always at a pharmacy store, drugstore like a Walgreens, always got to be doing something. It's usually because they can't sit down with their past. They can't rest because the rest is too loud. So that absolutely encourages me to encourage you to give people grace, because again, I'm always very, very careful with pointing blame, because we're all doing this life thing for the first time. And no playbook or handbook is the same, especially when it comes to love, partnerships, marriage, parenting, friendship. Nobody has a certain playbook. You would just expect everybody to show up as you do. And we all know that everybody doesn't show up like you're able to show up. Everybody can't. People don't have the capacity to be, I'm sorry, I'm looking down at myself. People don't always have the capacity to be the same person that you are to them in that moment. We saw that also with like a B Simone recently, when B Simone was telling her friend like my finances, and her friend is like, I saw you do this for someone else. And I'm not saying B Simone is a good friend. I don't think she is. I don't think she has the capacity to be. I think people should stop like experimenting with B Simone's friendship. But I also understand that we're all not going to get it right 100% of the time. And if my time isn't aligned with your time, that may make me look like a bad friend, or you look like a bad friend, or me look like a bad spouse, and or you look like a bad spouse. I think there's always room to give grace with timing, aside from certain things, of course, like abuse and assault. But there's always the ability to give someone grace because the timing may just be wrong. I really thank you all for hanging out with me. We didn't get a full hour, but I'm really excited about this show. I was able to just chill with y'all and talk openly. And I love that, because this conversation is probably worth another deep dive. Or maybe I've said everything that I have to give on the idea. But I would love to know how you feel about it, what you think Disney's impact was on marriages and relationships that we're seeing today, the fallout of, you know, companionship and men having this loneliness epidemic that I think maybe they're not fully to blame for, right? I don't think they're innocent, but I also don't think they're fully to blame, because I think that men weren't taught how to be partners, and women were. And women were. At some point, they have to grow up and say, okay, if this is what you're saying, this is what I'll do, and let's see how that works. Instead of just simply being defiant, defiant. If a woman tells you, hey, babe, I would love some flowers, and you're saying, no, I'm never going to buy you flowers, then, you probably get what you deserve. She'll eventually leave you and you'll feel, quote unquote, blindsided, but you didn't show up. So I think for men, they need to have a conversation amongst themselves that allows them to really open up and say, hey, y'all, we can't keep pretending to be blindsided if the women are saying, fix it or we're done. And I think a lot of women are saying, we're done. So I thank you all again for being here. This has been a fabulous Friday evening conversation. I will see you this weekend for sure. Monday and Tuesday, I'll be live. This weekend, I will be uploading videos. And I'm going to start a new channel. It's called Feminine Energy. So it's like feminine energy, but it's one word. And I'm excited because that is really going to be... I'm not going to do live videos over there. My live videos will stay here. So don't worry if you don't want to click to join that channel. But it will be really heavily empowerment, business, smart money, how to make money, how to start at your LLC, how to get business funding, how to get government contracts. I have so much knowledge and wealth of information inside of my head that I have to get it out. And I think it's my destiny. God has put me on this earth. Of course, all of us are here to promote betterment. But I think my true gift is to help women navigate money and finance and stay ahead of the game. So again, I thank you. I love you. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you before the holiday. So we'll talk soon. Bye.